The charade begins. The grand hall of the Galactic Summit sparkled like a handful of stars caught in crystal, its towering spires reflecting the light of 3 suns. Ambassador Elena Torres adjusted her seemingly simple Earth-made suit, suppressing a smile as her quantum-enhanced fabric adjusted its molecular structure to maintain the perfect temperature. To the gathered assembly of the galaxy's most advanced species, it looked like nothing more than well-tailored cotton. The human delegation will now present their technological progress report, announced High Arbiter Kizoth, their crystalline form oscillating with what Elena had learned to recognize as barely concealed condescension. Elena stepped forward, carrying what appeared to be an outdated tablet. In reality, the device contained enough computing power to simulate the evolution of several universes, but that was beside the point. Today's performance required a delicate balance of competence and carefully crafted limitations. Esteemed members of the Galactic Summit, Elena began, her voice carrying the perfect mix of respect and nervous energy. Earth is honored to share our modest achievements in technological advancement. The assembled delegates shifted in their various forms of seating. The Xeraxians' biomechanical bodies whirred with interest, their sensor arrays scanning everything in sight. The collective of elder races representatives floated in their energy form, their thought patterns radiating what Elena's neural implants translated as amused patience. Behind Elena, her team maintained their assigned roles perfectly. Dr. Thomas Anderson fiddled with what appeared to be a simple holographic projector, although its true capabilities could have rewritten the local laws of physics. Lieutenant Maria Santos kept her eyes downcast, seemingly intimidated by the advanced beings around her, while her neural network processed and analyzed every minute detail of the summit's security systems. In the past solar cycle, Elena continued, pulling up a series of deliberately simplistic graphs, we have achieved a 15% improvement in our fusion containment systems. She paused, allowing the gathered species to exchange knowing looks. Earth's achievement was technology they had mastered millennia ago. The Xeraxian chief scientist, Override Protocol X-227, raised one of their mechanical appendages. Most impressive, Ambassador Torres. Though if you would permit a suggestion, your containment field mathematics seems primitive. Perhaps we could share some basic principles that might help. Elena bowed slightly, fighting to keep her expression neutral. The primitive equations displayed on her screen were actually a clever facade, hiding the true complexity of Earth's quantum manipulation technologies. We would be most grateful for any guidance the esteemed Xeraxian Empire might offer. From the upper tiers, a member of the collective of elder races pulsed with purple energy, their thought voice resonating through the chamber. We have observed your species' development with great interest. Your progress from simple combustion engines to basic spaceflight in mere centuries is unusual. Elena felt a flutter of concern. The collective was known for their analytical abilities, and this wasn't the first time they had noted inconsistencies in Earth's technological timeline. She prepared to deploy one of their carefully crafted cover stories, but before she could respond, Dr. Anderson's holographic projector sputtered and died. "Oh dear," he mumbled, tapping it with exaggerated frustration. "These power cells are so unreliable." The seemingly embarrassing malfunction successfully redirected the collective's attention, though Elena noticed Lieutenant Santos' subtle hand signal. They were being watched more closely than usual. As the presentation continued, Elena wove through the careful dance they had perfected over years of galactic interactions. Each admission of technological limitation was balanced with just enough competence to maintain credibility. Each question was answered with a carefully calculated mix of knowledge and naive enthusiasm. But even as she played her part, Elena knew their time was running out. The quantum calculations running through her neural implants suggested a 72.3% probability that their charade would face a serious challenge within the next Galactic Standard Week. Humanity's greatest performance was approaching its final act, and the galaxy would never be the same. Cracks in the facade. Commander James Wright stood at the helm of the Earth vessel Humble Endeavor, a name that still made him chuckle internally. The ship's exterior looked appropriately weathered, its hull bearing the marks of what appeared to be decades of space travel. In reality, the rust was a complex network of quantum sensors, and the dents were carefully disguised gravity manipulation nodes. "Your vessel's propulsion systems seem inefficient," observed Chief Engineer Valthix of the Xeraxian Empire, their biomechanical eyes whirring as they conducted yet another scan. "These plasma conduits are practically antiquated." Wright scratched his head, playing the part of the simple human captain. "We make do with what we have, Chief Engineer. Though I must admit, sometimes she surprises even me with her performance." The Xeraxian delegation had arrived unannounced, clanging routine inspection protocols, but Wright's quantum-enhanced intuition suggested otherwise. The timing was too perfect, too calculated, especially after Ambassador Torres's presentation at the summit. Lieutenant Kira Patel, his communications officer, caught his eye from across the bridge. Her expression was neutral, but the subtle tap of her fingers against her console transmitted a clear message through their neural network. The Xeraxians were running deep-level scans, far more intensive than any standard inspection. "Perhaps," Valthix continued, extending a mechanical appendage toward the ship's main control panel, "you would permit a small demonstration of more advanced propulsion techniques. For educational purposes, of course." Wright maintained his diplomatic smile, even as his neural implants calculated 17 different ways to prevent the Xeraxian from accessing the ship's true systems. "We would be honored, though our power grid is rather sensitive. Wouldn't want to overload our humble systems." From the corner of his eye, he noticed Dr. Raj Kumar, their primitive science officer, deliberately fumbling with a handheld scanner. The device appeared to be nothing more than a basic atmospheric analyzer, but it was actually monitoring the Xeraxians' every movement, breaking down their biomechanical code faster than their own processors could compute it. "Fascinating," muttered one of the junior Xeraxian engineers, their optical sensors fixed on a display showing the ship's power distribution. "These readings, they don't quite match expected patterns for this level of technology." Wright felt a flutter of concern. The carefully constructed power fluctuations they used to mask their true capabilities were being questioned. He needed a diversion, and quickly. "Ah, yes," he chuckled, reaching for what appeared to be a toolkit. "We've been having some issues with our sensor calibration. Perhaps you could help us understand why our readings keep showing these strange quantum fluctuations. Probably just a malfunction in our outdated equipment." The strategy worked. Valthix's attention immediately shifted to the opportunity to demonstrate their supposedly superior knowledge. "Of course, such anomalies are quite common in developing systems. Allow me to explain the basic principles of quantum calibration." As the Xeraxian launched into a lengthy explanation of physics that humanity had mastered centuries ago, Wright caught Dr. Kumar stifling a smile. The malfunctioning sensors were actually collecting detailed data on Xeraxian technology, adding to Earth's vast database of galactic knowledge. But their careful performance was about to face its greatest test. As Valthix reached the conclusion of their explanation, a priority alert flashed across Wright's neural interface. A temporal anomaly was forming in the nearby space, one that could threaten the entire sector. The Xeraxians' instruments weren't sophisticated enough to detect it yet, but within minutes it would become impossible to ignore. Wright exchanged quick glances with his crew. They all knew the protocol. Maintain the charade unless lives were at risk. But as the anomaly grew stronger, he could feel the weight of the choice bearing down on him. Their ship was more than capable of containing the temporal rift, but doing so would reveal capabilities far beyond what humanity was supposed to possess. The first warning alarms began to sound on the Xeraxian devices. Valthix's biomechanical form stiffened as their sensors finally detected the growing disturbance. "This is unexpected. We should return to our vessel immediately." Wright watched as the temporal anomaly's probability patterns shifted, showing a 93.7% chance of catastrophic collapse within the next 10 minutes. His hand hovered over the ship's real control interface, hidden beneath layers of holographic camouflage. The moment of decision was approaching, and with it, perhaps the end of humanity's greatest deception. The tipping point. The temporal anomaly pulsed with increasing intensity, its quantum signatures now visible even to the Ziraxians' relatively primitive sensors. Dr. Marcus Rivera stood in the central science hub of Starbase Unity, watching as panic spread among the gathered alien species. His seemingly simple lab coat contained more computing power than most civilizations' entire networks, and it was telling him exactly how bad the situation was becoming. "All our containment attempts are failing," announced first theorist Zix of the collective of elder races, their energy form flickering with distress. "The anomaly's expansion rate exceeds our most advanced projection models." Rivera glanced at the holographic displays surrounding them, showing the various species' attempts to understand and control the growing rift. The Ziraxians' biomechanical interfaces were smoking from computational overload. The crystalline Arthurian scientists had actually cracked from the strain of their calculations. Even the usually composed elder races were showing signs of genuine fear. "Perhaps," Rivera suggested carefully, maintaining his role as the simple human scientist, "if we combined our different approaches." His neural implants were already calculating exactly how long they could maintain the charade before the anomaly threatened the entire sector. The answer was, not long. Ambassador Torres's voice came through his quantum-encrypted neural link. "Marcus, we're running out of options. The humble endeavor is in position, but Commander Wright can't act without revealing our true capabilities. Your call." Rivera watched as another attempt to contain the anomaly failed spectacularly. A junior Ziraxian scientist was knocked backward, their mechanical parts sparking. Without thinking, Rivera reached out and caught them with what appeared to be remarkable reflexes, but was actually a microburst of controlled gravity manipulation. "Impossible," muttered the Ziraxian, their sensors trying to process what had just happened. "Your reaction speed exceeded biological limitations." "Lucky catch," Rivera smiled, helping them up, but he could see the suspicion growing in their biomechanical eyes. The facade was cracking, piece by piece. First theorist Zix suddenly pulsed with alarm. "The anomaly's quantum signature is changing. It's beginning to affect local space-time geometry." Rivera's enhanced senses could feel it too. The temporal rift was no longer just a scientific curiosity. It was becoming a threat to the very fabric of reality in this sector. His neural implants calculated a 99.9% probability of catastrophic failure within the next 5 minutes. "Dr. Rivera," called out Chief Engineer Valfix from the Humble Endeavor's communication screen, "our sensors detect a cascade reaction building within the anomaly's core. According to our calculations, we cannot survive this." Rivera closed his eyes for a moment, knowing what he had to do. Humanity had maintained their charade for centuries, playing the role of an emerging civilization while secretly safeguarding the galaxy from threats exactly like this one. But now, facing the choice between maintaining that deception and saving lives, there was no choice at all. "Actually," he said, his voice carrying clearly through the chaos of the science hub, "your calculations are off by quite a bit." He reached up and removed his simple-looking glasses, revealing eyes that glowed with quantum-enhanced perception. "The cascade reaction isn't just building. It's about to create a temporal shockwave that will rewrite the last 1,000 years of history in this sector." The room fell silent as Rivera stepped forward, his lab coat shimming as its true technological nature became visible. "And we can't let that happen." "We?" asked first theorist Zix, their energy form pulsing with confusion. Rivera nodded, pressing what appeared to be a simple button on his coat. The air around him began to ripple as layers of humanity's technological deception fell away. "Yes, humanity has been protecting this galaxy from temporal incursions for longer than most of your civilizations have been spacefaring. We just thought it was better if you didn't know that." The assembled aliens watched in stunned silence as Rivera's true equipment revealed itself. His simple tablet expanded into a complex array of quantum manipulation devices. The walls of the science hub seemed to bend as hidden human technology activated throughout the station. Commander Wright, Rivera spoke into what was now obviously not a standard communicator. Execute Protocol Omega. Let's show our friends what humanity can really do. Through the hub's windows, they watched as the humble Endeavor's false exterior melted away, revealing a ship of such advanced design that several Xeraxian scientists had to reset their optical processors. The vessel began to glow with contained quantum energy as it moved into position near the temporal anomaly. But this is impossible," stammered Valthix, their mechanical appendages trembling. "Your civilization. You were supposed to be young, developing, primitive." Rivera smiled as he began inputting commands into his now-revealed quantum interface. "We've been maintaining that fiction for a very long time. And now, with your permission, we're going to save your lives using technology you didn't think would exist for another 1,000 years." As the assembled species watched in amazement, humanity finally stopped hiding, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The Great Revelation. The Grand Council Chamber of the Galactic Alliance had never been so silent. The curved walls, usually alive with the gentle hum of diplomatic exchanges, now held their breath as Ambassador Elena Torres stood at the central podium. Above her, representatives from every major spacefaring civilization watched with a mixture of awe, fear, and poorly concealed indignation. For 3,000 years, Torres began, her voice carrying effortlessly through the vast space. Humanity has maintained what we call the Great Pretense. Today, that ends. The chamber's quantum displays showed footage from the previous day's events, the humble Endeavor transforming into its true form, Dr. Rivera's containment of the temporal anomaly, and the revelation of humanity's hidden technologies. Each image caused ripples of murmuring among the assembled delegates. High Arbiter Kazov's crystalline form vibrated with barely contained emotion. "You deceived us all. Every technological exchange, every request for assistance, every seemingly primitive demonstration, it was all orchestrated." "Yes," Torres replied simply. "And no, our gratitude for your guidance was genuine, even if we didn't need the technical assistance you offered." From their elevated platform, the collective of elder races pulsed with intense patterns of light, their equivalent of heated discussion. First theorist Zix separated from their group consciousness to address the chamber. "Our preliminary analysis of the human technology revealed during the crisis suggests capabilities far beyond our previous models," they announced, their energy form flickering with what might have been excitement or concern. "Their quantum manipulation techniques alone indicate a civilization at least 7 stages beyond our own development scale." The chamber erupted in chaos. The Xeraxian delegation's biomechanical interfaces sparked with overload as they attempted to process this information. The Arthurian representatives' crystalline forms chimed in frequencies of distress. Even the usually stoic sentinel eyes of the machine Concordat showed signs of agitation in their holographic matrices. Torres raised her hand, and the chamber fell silent, not because of any technological manipulation, but from the sheer presence she now allowed herself to project. "We understand your confusion, your anger, and your fear. But before you judge us too harshly, let me show you why we maintain this deception." With a subtle gesture, she activated what appeared to be a simple bracelet on her wrist. The chamber's space shifted as a holographic representation of the galaxy materialized around them. But this was unlike any map they had seen before. It showed not just physical space, but temporal currents, dimensional boundaries, and quantum probability waves. "In the last 1,000 years alone," Torres continued, "humanity has prevented 17 temporal incursions that would have unraveled the very fabric of our galaxy. We've sealed 43 dimensional rifts that threatened to collapse entire sectors into pocket universes. We've quietly redirected 9 different civilizations from developing technologies that would have led to their own extinction." She gestured to specific points in the display, showing events that none of the assembled species had ever known about. "We didn't hide our capabilities out of malice or a desire for power. We hid them because we learned, very early in our development, that knowledge of certain technologies before a civilization is ready can be catastrophic. The machine conquered its primary interface, a being of pure data known as archive, spoke up. Our historical records show no evidence of such interventions. Torres smiled. That was rather the point, archive. The best interventions are the ones that never appear to have happened at all. A junior Xeraxian scientist, their mechanical limbs still bearing scorch marks from the recent crisis, raised an appendage. The temporal anomaly yesterday, was it one of these interventions? No, Torres replied, her expression growing serious. That was something new, something that required us to finally reveal ourselves, because we can no longer protect the galaxy alone. The holographic display shifted, showing patterns of increasing temporal and dimensional instability throughout the galaxy. We're detecting more anomalies, larger rifts, and greater threats than ever before. Whatever's coming, humanity's hidden guardianship won't be enough to stop it. The chamber was silent as the implications sank in. First theorist Zix floated forward, their energy pattern showing complex harmonics of thought. You're proposing an alliance, not as mentors to a developing species, but as equals. Torres finished. Different, yes. More advanced in some ways, perhaps, but all of us facing something that threatens everything we've built. We're offering to share our knowledge, gradually and responsibly, to help prepare for whatever's coming. High Arbiter Kazoth's crystalline form resonated with diplomatic tones. And if we refuse, if we decide your deception warrants consequences. Torres's smile remained diplomatic, but there was steel behind it. With respect, Arbiter, if humanity wished to dominate the galaxy, this conversation wouldn't be happening. We're not revealing ourselves to conquer, but to cooperate. The choice of how we proceed is yours, but know that the threats we face won't wait for us to resolve our political differences. As the chamber erupted in discussion, Torres felt a subtle vibration from her quantum communicator. Commander Wright's voice came through her neural link. Another anomaly's been detected in the Carina sector, bigger than yesterday's. Torres looked out at the assembled representatives of galactic civilization, still arguing about humanity's revelation. Time to show them what cooperation really looks like, she sub-vocalized. Prepare the humble endeavor for joint operations. Let's give them a chance to work with us, not just watch. The next few hours would determine whether humanity's great revelation would lead to a new era of galactic cooperation, or if centuries of deception would doom them to face the coming threats alone. A new dawn. The Carina sector blazed with energy as 3 ships moved in perfect formation through the quantum storm. At the center, the humble Endeavor, now proudly displaying its true form, led the way. On its flanks, a Xeraxian quantum cruiser and an Elder Race energy vessel matched its pace, their crews working in harmony with technology that would have been unimaginable to them just days ago. Commander Wright stood on his bridge, watching as Lieutenant Patil coordinated with their alien counterparts through the newly established quantum neural network. Temporal breach expanding, she reported, her hands dancing over controls that no longer needed to be disguised. The Xeraxians are in position for containment sequence. Remarkable, commented Valthix through the command link, their biomechanical form having been upgraded with carefully shared human technology. A week ago, we thought humans barely understood quantum mechanics. Now we're navigating probability waves together. The temporal anomaly pulsed ahead of them, larger than the one that had forced humanity's revelation. But this time, they weren't facing it alone. As Wright watched, the Xeraxian vessel deployed containment fields that perfectly complemented the humble Endeavor's quantum barriers. The Elder Race ship pulsed with energy, its consciousness interfacing directly with the fabric of space-time. All ships, execute containment protocol on my mark, Wright commanded, feeling a profound sense of rightness in not having to hide his true capabilities anymore. 3, 2, 1, mark. The combined power of 3 civilizations' technologies lashed out at the anomaly. Where once humanity would have had to handle such threats alone, Now they watched as their allies matched them motion for motion, their different approaches creating a symphony of scientific advancement. Back on Earth, in the newly revealed Temporal Defense Command, Dr. Marcus Rivera and first theorist Zix worked side by side, their combined consciousness extending through quantum space to analyze the operation in real time. The walls of the facility, no longer hidden beneath holographic camouflage, hummed with power that made even the elder race's technology seem primitive. The pattern is becoming clear, Zix observed, their energy form intertwining with the quantum displays. These anomalies, they're not random. They're being caused by something, or someone. Rivera nodded, his enhanced perception taking in data streams that would have overwhelmed most beings. That's why we chose to reveal ourselves now. Whatever's coming, it knows about us, about all of us. Hiding was no longer an option. In the Galactic Alliance headquarters, Ambassador Torres stood with High Arbiter Kizoth, watching real-time feeds from the Carina operation. The chamber around them had been transformed, human technology seamlessly integrating with the existing systems to create something entirely new. Your people continue to surprise us, Kizoth admitted, their crystalline form reflecting the quantum displays. Even now, after revealing so much, we suspect you still maintain certain reserves. Torres smiled diplomatically. Of course we do. As do you, and the Ziraxians, and every other species. The difference is, now we can be honest about having secrets while working together on what matters. The displays showed the combined fleet successfully containing the temporal anomaly, their coordinated efforts accomplishing in minutes what would have taken humanity hours to handle alone. But more importantly, they showed crews from different species working together, learning from each other, building something new from the ashes of humanity's great deception. The archivists of Centauri have completed their initial analysis of human history, Kizoth continued. The extent of your intervention in galactic affairs is humbling. The number of extinction-level events you prevented, the civilizations you subtly guided away from disaster. We did what we thought was right, Torres replied. But we also knew that eventually we'd face something too big to handle alone. That day has come. The quantum alerts chimed again. Another anomaly forming, this time in the Orion Spur. But instead of panic, the response was immediate and coordinated. Ships from a dozen species began moving into position, their crews now trained in the basics of human temporal defense techniques. In the Carina sector, Commander Wright watched as the combined fleet prepared to move to their next target. The humble Endeavor's true form gleamed in the starlight, its quantum drives pulsing with power that no longer needed to be hidden. Lieutenant Patel's console displayed messages from ships across the galaxy, all reporting various temporal and dimensional disturbances.